Good morning. I'm Peter Hurst, the President and CEO of the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. As many of you know, we have been fortunate to receive several grants from the Minority Business Development Agency to help MBEs throughout all of New England. Not only those certified by the council, but any business that considers itself to be an MBE. One of those grants focuses on federal procurement. And today we're going to have the fourth in a four-part series led by William Randolph, who we're going to let him introduce himself, a very competent and established entrepreneur, very knowledgeable about federal procurement. And today we're going to focus on government engagement and the value of capability statements. Before we get started, I want to let everyone know that this session is recorded and will be available for those of you who missed part of it or all of it, as in the other three sessions that we have put forth are also recorded. Randall's going to kick us off, and then we're going to have time at the end for questions. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you in advance for participating, and I know you're going to have a great session today with William. William, the floor is yours.
Thank you so very much. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. I have a little presentation I want to share with you this morning, just to give you a sense of how we're going to be talking about this opportunity. So we're going to dive in. Let's see. Okay, here we are. Okay. Webinar series 4, folks. Time flies when you're having fun. Webinar series 4. We're going to be talking about government engagement and the value of the capability statement as a artifact, as a marketing tool strategy. Okay, let's dive in. So a little bit of introduction. I'm retired federal government contracting officer, senior procurement executive. Spent over 26 years in federal government, helping various agencies buy faster, smarter, more effectively. I retired in 2016 as a senior executive service member. Did a little bit of consulting around the DC metro area for a few years, and then started my own company in 2019 in the training and development space called Think Acquisition. And today I'm here with you, so I'm really pleased and appreciative of the opportunity. I also want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the G&E MSDC for sponsoring this event, this series of events. And the work that they do in the greater New England area is amazing, amazing. They're here as a resource and a valuable resource. So I encourage you to take great use of the opportunity and the asset. All right. I want to set a little reminder. We've done this every time we've had one of these webinars, but I think it's still worth talking about. Look at the opportunity, folks. Last fiscal year at the federal level, so no state, no local, no municipalities, no higher education, only federal contracts, $692 billion across the country. Okay, and in the G&E MSDC states, okay, in the states covered by the G&E MSDC, over 46 billion were spent in those states. Okay, let me show you what it looks like. We're going to start lowest to highest. 500 million plus in Vermont, 1.2 in Rhode Island. This is last year's spend, FY22. 1.7 in New Hampshire, 2.7 in Maine. Now it starts getting interesting now. Massachusetts, 17.9 billion spent in the state at the federal level, and 22.3 billion in the state of Connecticut last year. Contracts, no transfer payments, no grants, no agreements. This is all contract spending. Now you can if you're in the greater New England area, which you all are, you probably could make some assumptions on where the spending is occurring. You can look at the top agencies by agencies. This Department of the Navy is over 25 billion. Okay. So large DoD, Department of Defense presence. So Navy, Air Force, Army, DLA, your top 4 in the region. But there's still some diversity of client base, diversity of procurement base in the top 10. Okay, so significant spending. Again, over 46 billion last year. So let's talk about where we're talking about outreach today. When we talk about government outreach, this is the government contracting life cycle from the time that the government recognizes a need in phase 1 all the way to a contract closeout in part 6, in phase 6. That contracting personnel engagement, this government engagement with contracting personnel and program managers and project officers and cores, that tends to happen. Those initial conversations tend to be happening between phase 1 and phase 2. Once the government is recognizing a need, all the way up until when the government goes out and releases RFPs, RFQs, that's the communication phase between 1 and 2. And lots of other communication is happening downstream, but the most important connections are being made. Those initial connections are being made between phase 1 and phase 2. Please know that there is a specific strategy, in my opinion, for government contracting engagement. Okay? When you're doing government there is a specific strategy. Now, people do all sorts of things, but I'm going to share with you a strategy that uses motivation and incentive to drive the communication strategy, not just who you can get access to. So here's what I believe. This is based on my experiences, 26 years on the other side of the table, 3 years now on the government contractor side of the table, and about 4 years consulting to both sides. And this is a conclusion that I've come to, that government contracting success has 4 pieces. 4 pieces: capability, information, relationships, and a strategy. Those are the 4. Now, you can cut those up lots of different ways, but in general, it's those 4. It's those 4. So for today, we're going to be talking about the strategy that helps you build the relationships. Talk about strategy today. You may think that all of your strategy has to be focused on capability. Now, don't get me wrong. What you can do, what you bring to the marketplace, goods and services, very, very important. Okay. What you can do is very, very important. But please know, it is the way you communicate what you can do is the differentiator. There are lots of great companies out there with great capability, but they haven't figured out how to communicate. They haven't figured out how to communicate, to share that great capability with their customers. And as a result of that, they are less than successful. They focused all of their energy on the capability, and when they really needed to talk a little bit about, put some energy and time and energy into communication. Here's what I'm going to share with you. So what I call level 1 and level 2 outreach. These are the 4 primary roles you will find in government procurement. Small business specialist, starting left to right, small business specialist, the contracting officer or the contract specialist, okay, synonymous here for this discussion. The contracting officer representative, the core, and the program project manager or end user consumer, okay? The consumer of the goods and services. These are the 4 primary roles. Now, it's really important. Remember I said earlier, we'll pick a strategy that's based on motivations and incentives. Okay? Every time I talk to folks, most of the time when I talk to folks, everybody wants to get in front of the contracting officer. Oh, how can I get in front of the contracting officer? How can I get in front of the PM? And I've just posed to you today that that's not the most effective strategy of building a communication plan, because it's not aligned to the motivations and incentives of the roles. So let's talk about the motivations and incentives of the roles. The first role, small business specialist, that individual owns access. Their job is to bring small businesses into the fold. That's their purpose. Okay? That's their purpose. They control access. They help gain access. They research, communicate, collaborate, but in the end, they want to make sure that they have ample small businesses inside of the fold, inside the database, inside the organization to execute on the small business goals that the agency has. So the small business specialist cares about, owns access. Second, the contracting officer and the contract specialist, they care about the business relationship. Do they care about access? They can take it or leave it. It's nice, but they don't get their motivations and incentives aren't aligned to access. Their motivations and incentives are aligned to the business arrangement. How do we get the contracts awarded? Contracting officers and contract specialists get measured, get graded by what gets accomplished. So they don't do things, they don't act in ways that interject risk to getting something across the finish line. They care about the business relationship. Your contracting officer representatives of your cores, they own the activity. They care about the activity. Where's my stuff? Who's doing it? Who's delivering it? Is it on time? Is it late? Is it on budget? They care about the activity. Do they care about the business relationship? A little. Do they care about access? Perhaps. Some. But their motivations and incentives, they aren't incentivized to care about access. They aren't incentivized to care about the business relationship. They are incentivized to care about the activity. When it's time to talk activity, that's who we should be talking to. Last but certainly not least is the program or project manager, the end user, or the consumer. They care about the mission, how the activity folds into and delivers the organization's mission. Is the mission getting accomplished? Do they care about the activity? A little bit. Do they care about the business relationship? Not so much. Do they care about access? Take it or leave it. Do they care about the mission? Absolutely. So when we do these activities, when we think about what our outreach, our communication plan is to these four roles, I say play the odds, folks. And the odds is the small business specialist is the person that is incentivized for access. They are motivated and incentivized to bring people in. Why would we not use that channel as the communication strategy? So the small business specialist is actually the first person you should be talking to. Okay. I believe, and again, it's based on knowledge and experience, I believe that the small business specialist is your first foray into government access, government engagement. And then all of the others are post first relationship connections. Now, why do I say they're post relationship connections? Because when we make the connection and build the relationship with the small business specialist inside the organization now, we've got a beachhead, we got a communications beachhead inside the organization. Now that person should be able to direct you to who you should be talking to. In absence of that internal, of that kind of inside information, that intelligence, we're just shooting in the dark. We may be talking to a contracting officer that's not even on our programs or the things that we sell or we bring to the marketplace. We might be talking to a project manager. We got connected to a project manager or end user. It's like, but we don't buy that. We don't use that. We might get connected to a core and the person doesn't return our phone calls. The small business specialist will be able to give you insights into who you should be talking to, who will likely return your phone calls, who will be interested in getting a capabilities briefing from you. We have to use the person, we have to use the role that is incentivized to talk to us. Everybody else, while it's in there a little, it's not their primary motivation and incentive to talk to us. They care about different things. So when we have an outreach strategy, here's some suggestions for you. Keep it simple. When you're reaching out for that initial small business specialist connection, keep it simple. Do your homework. Okay? I believe in the concept of sell Tylenol, not vitamins. And when you think about Tylenol, when someone's hurting, they have pain, they want pain reliever. They don't care where it comes from. It could be Walmart brand, Walgreens brand, CVS brand, Tylenol brand. They don't care. Or you don't care. Vitamins, it's like, you don't even know if it works or not. It's like, you just got to kind of believe. Okay? It's discretionary. If you miss a day, it's just a vitamin. Okay? So think about doing your homework so you know where the pains are in the organization. So you can be a seller of Tylenol instead of a discretionary seller of vitamins that they may or may not want your services. If you sell Tylenol and you've identified the pain, they want it. They want it. Make sure you're demonstrating understanding and value creation. You show up competent. Don't assign homework. So many times when I was on the other side of the table, I would be the recipient of capability briefings, and the first thing a company would sit down and say, "So, William, what you got for me?" Wait a minute. You're assigning me homework. You're coming here. I'm here to hear more about who you are, what you do, and the homework you've done, that you know what my problems are, where my challenges are, where it hurts, where the pain is. And you're asking, so what do you got for me? Don't assign homework. Next one is make sure you're sharing your capability statement. It is your premier marketing collateral, your premier piece of marketing material. So make sure it's robust and it's reflective of your company's stature, position, and most of all, maturity. People make assessments, just like in the resumes. People draw conclusions from your capability statement. Always request a capability briefing. So you make a first connection to get to the second one. Okay, that's when you actually have time to share and collaborate, okay, to tell more of your story and then to tell more of what we can do for the agency. Ask for an easy ask. When we talked about those second levels, those post communication, post relationship connections, that's an easy ask. Could you please share with me the point of contact for X? Who's the core for Y? You have an opportunity to connect with the program officer for Z, maybe getting access to the forecast, be included in the database, in the vendor database. Easy ask, something that's easy. You're building a relationship. So do easy ask at first. Always educate a little bit. If you've got some insights, something you can share, always educate a little bit. Give a little bit. Don't give secret sauce, but give them a little bit. Let them know you're thinking, that you've been thinking about who they are, what they need. Remember, it's speed dating. Okay, the first outreaches are speed dating. It's no proposals of matrimony. Okay, think about if you went to the bar with a ring in your hand. It's like, can I buy you a drink? Oh, by the way, will you marry me? Like, whoa, wait a minute. Can we go to dinner or go to the movies or see if we like each other first? Okay, so the first meeting is just to get the second meeting. The goal is to get the second conversation. Be interesting, build interest, okay? And the value of pursuit. Build interest, be interesting. Have enough value that you become pursued. Just, ooh, we need to talk more to you. Understand your timing of your communications and seasonality, the federal government contracting life cycle in the fiscal year. There's a seasonality to that by quarter, depending on what's happening. Okay, your relationship building is extremely limited in the fourth quarter. Too busy to build relationships. That's the execution. That's the execution season. That's the harvest season. Okay. Well, you want to be building your relationships before the fourth quarter. It's going to be hard to build relationships then, because that's where people will start they start leveraging the relationships in fourth quarter, the relationships that are already built. Okay. Be consistent, but not obsessive. Be consistent. Okay. There's a thin line. There's a very thin line between persistence and pest. Okay. Find a line and get one step back from it. Be very persistent, okay, but don't cross over. And one of the things I always do is add a link to your website or a video or something, maybe YouTube channel if you have it, something linked to your corporate website, someplace where the individual can get another touch, get some more information on your company before reaching out. You want to give them as many opportunities to connect and learn you before the call. You may never get the call, but imagine if you gave them the YouTube video, a link to the YouTube video that describes who you are, what you do. Okay, 5 minutes, maybe a podcast snippet. Who you are, what you do. It's like, oh wow, in 7 or 8 minutes now they know, they got more information. It's not just an email and a capability statement. You've got some more touches in there. You've spent 7 minutes of quality time with them and you don't even know it, just by simply sending them a 7-minute video. Put your video link in your signature block. If you don't have time to respond, please watch the video. We'd love to hear more. And you give them something to fall in love with. Okay? That's an outreach strategy. Get your touches in. Remember, small business specialist is part 1, is phase 1, strategy 1, your first touch. And then you use the information and the capability and the understanding of the organization that the small business specialist owns to go get the other people. It's much easier from a warm invitation or someone inside of the organization than just throwing darts at the organization, hoping that you hit the right contracting officer, right contracting officer's representative, right core or right program manager. You're just throwing darts. And even if you hit it, it's not introduced, it's not set up, it's not It's not advanced. It's not warmed by the small business specialist. Which one do you think? A cold email or a referred email from the small business specialist will the contracting officer receive more favorably? The program manager receive more favorably? A request for 20 or 30 minutes of your time, which one will be received more favorably? The cold email, you found some email somewhere and you're just throwing a dart, or the small business specialist that says, this, based on what you're asking for, what you're interested in, this is the core you should be talking to, and I'm going to do a warm introduction. I think that's the more favorable. We're playing the odds, I think that's a more favorable strategy. Now, here's next, capability statements. More people will see your capability statement that will ever see your face or your place of business. More people will see it. Therefore, if you believe that, if you can say, yep, I could believe that, therefore, your capability statement becomes an avatar, becomes a symbol of your business. It's your resume. It's your signature. It's your logo. This is what people will see more of. They won't recognize your face. They won't recognize your building or your place of business. But if you've done an effective job of engaging with your customer base, they'll recognize your logo, they'll recognize your capability statement. So this is why, this is the value of the capability statement. It is your premier, and your premier #1 piece of marketing and branding collateral. Treat it as such. Treat it as such. Here are the 6 things. Here are the 6 things that I offer should be included in every capability statement. #1, who are you? So this is the description, not only of the business, but of your salient characteristics, your UEI code, your cage code, address of the business, all those things, those pertinent pieces of information, point of contact information. Who are you? That's #1. Okay. If you don't have that, then it doesn't matter how interesting the rest of it is, they can't find you. They can't make contact with you. Second, what do you do? Okay, this is separate and distinct from who the company is. You can have a description of the company, but that doesn't say, what do you do? Okay. This could be your primary, a description of your primary NAICS codes, not 25 or 30 of them, because if you're in 25 or 30 NAICS codes, then you're not really in any of them. Yes, you may have work in them, but what do you want to be known for? What do you do? What are your capabilities? What are your core? Some of the language we often see is core competencies. And you can't have 35 core competencies. Maybe you can, but if you have 35, you really don't have any. What are your core competencies? #3, who have you done it for? Past performance. We know who you are. We know who you say you are. We know what you say you do. Next piece is, who have you done it for? We need some social proof. This is your past performance. Picking the past performances that are relevant, that tell your story. It all should be a cohesive story. Who have you done it for? That's your past performance. #4, who have you done it with? Okay, especially for small businesses, collaboration with larger businesses that have name recognition and brand recognition, very valuable. They want to know you have partners. Who do you collaborate with? Who have you collaborated with? Who are your strategic partners? Who do you have in the background? So if you're a small business starting off, but you look backwards, it's like, oh, my big brother and sister are back there. All right. So we can do some business. So who have you done it? Who are your partners and your team members? Number 4. Number 5, what differentiates you from everyone else in your space? What differentiates you? Okay. So what's different? What's special about you? Okay. The separating the wheat from the chaff starts immediately. What's so different about you? Your differentiators are your magnets. Okay. Because everybody's going to come in and say who they are, say what they do. But who you've done it for, it starts the differentiation, starts the split, past performance. Who are your partners and team members, starts the split. Yep, another fishbone, starts the split. Then the differentiators in your space are, there's another one, starts to split. All the also ran start getting weeded out. What is your differentiators in your space? And then number 6 is, are there certifications, any type of certifications that you may have that separates? Notice that certifications are last, not first. Okay. Government doesn't necessarily care about your certifications if you don't have the capability to deliver the work. Your certifications are last. Certifications are last. So these are the 6 things. The 6 things that should be included, that are the 6 stories, the 6 chapters in your story that you should be telling in your capability statement. Who are you? What do you do? Who have you done it for? Who have you done it with? What differentiates you from all the others? And then what are your certifications? Last point on capability statements. Please make sure that if you do government and commercial work, that you have a government and a commercial capability statement, and that they're easily found on your website or on your LinkedIn profile, wherever you've planted your online flag. Make sure there's an easy button for someone to click here and get your capability statement. If you do corporate work and you do government work, you should have 2. If you do government work, but they're in 2 separate areas that aren't synergistic, have 2 capability statements. And then the third point is to have a master that can be a master capability statement that can be easily tailored for unique situations, especially if you're responding to RFIs. Don't have a one-size-fits-all. I'm sure you all remember or have heard folks say about people receiving, you may have even received the generic resume. It's like, this has nothing to do with the job that's being applied for, but that's just the resume that they have. It's not tailored. Remember that experience? I don't know whether on either side, if you gave a generic resume, how did that work out for you? If you received a generic resume, what did you do with it? So there is some value, there's great value in having a master where you can tailor the past performances for the situation. You can tailor the differentiators for the situation. You can even tailor the core competencies for the situation. I have 2. I have 1 for training and development, and I have 1 for consulting. I've got clients for both. Sometimes they overlap, but many times they're separate. So when I'm pursuing training and development work, I'm using my training and development capability statement. When I'm using consulting work, advisory work, when I'm pursuing advisory and consulting work, I use my capability statement that highlights my consultant and advisory chops. That's the value proposition for those capability statements. That's their value. They're the marketing piece. There's the first piece of information. People will start building a brand around your business. So make sure that they are relevant, recent, they demonstrate maturity. That's the thing that people are looking for. It's like, because they're making judgments. They're making judgments. It's not fair, but who promised fair? It's not fair that you're going to be judged by your capability statement, but who promised fair? Your capability statement will be critiqued. It will be judged. All right. So next steps, please reach out to your center representatives, connect with large and small businesses in your space. They should know you and you should know them. That's the easy button. Go and find the folk that are doing work in your space and make sure you know who they are and they know who you are. You all are in the same region, speak the same language, members of the same center. Do business together. Find opportunities to do business together. All right. In the next steps, got a couple. One, please know that there are still one-on-one consulting opportunities available with yours truly. They just reach out to the center and they'll set you up for one-on-one virtual meetings. Again, these are sponsored and scheduled by G&E MSDC, by the center, available for you. Number two, whenever there are opportunities, you find yourself in the need for solidifying your certifications, they're important. Please reach out to the center and get those certifications lined up, really important. And there's matchmaking support. Matchmaking events where you're connecting with folks in the region. You should be taking advantage of all of those opportunities. And the third is, there's actually G&E, the G&E MSDC Center has capability statement support. If you need some capability support to elevate and mature your capability statement, reach out, connect, let them know you'd like to get your capability statement enhanced, updated, elevated. It's not fair, but people make judgment calls, just like on a resume, no different. But people make judgment calls based on your capability statement. But if they do an assessment of the level of maturity of your company, which is a strong correlation to the capability of your company by the physical appearance of your capability statement. So if you have an opportunity to elevate that, or you feel you need an opportunity to elevate that, then reach out, make sure you take advantage of that. Okay, so we've got a little time. We're just gonna do some, what I like to call open mic. Ask the contracting officer. If you have any questions, comments, please throw them in the Q&A. And we'll try to knock out as many as we can in the remaining 15 or so minutes. Right, so I'm gonna stop sharing here. Please know if you want to reach out, make contact, please reach out on LinkedIn, I'm there. If you're looking for services, please go through the center, but please be a colleague, be a good community member on the tribe. I'd welcome the opportunity to connect with you. All right, so I'm going to stop there. And we're going to go to our open mic discussion.
If anyone has questions and would like to raise their hand, we can just allow for you to ask your question directly to William Randolph. So just go ahead and hit that raise hand button and we'll call on you. So Renee Johnson.
Hello, Renee.
Renee, you want to ask your question orally, or you want to put it in the chat?
I do see in the chat, she says, how do I get in contact with you, Mr. Randolph? Simply reach out to the Center for Services. We're talking about the one-on-one consulting. Reach out to the center. And for just connecting, please reach out on LinkedIn to be a network, be a network member. Please feel free to reach out and connect on LinkedIn.
So Renee, I put my email address in the chat. If you send a request to me, I'll make sure it gets to William and the rest of my colleagues can help you.
Rachel Wilson, can you unmute?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Randolph, and nice to see you, Peter. You guys have an amazing team. Delizah's been really wonderful. I actually work for a venture firm out of Atlanta called Collab Capital, and we have a bunch of amazing founders in our portfolio, over 33 now, that we've invested either 500,000 to $1 million in. And we've been trying to do a lot of work with them in supplier diversity and contracting, government contracting specifically. And it's been difficult just trying to navigate the waters for startup businesses.
Sure.
And so I was wondering if you have any tips or things you can offer as guidance for companies that are in that, tech startup businesses, especially B2B SaaS, and ways that they can look for opportunities to get in to government contracting. And my second question would be around specifically those around ESG as well, because we do have a few that might be able to take advantage of some of the new legislation that's gone on around the infrastructure bill. So I'd love to get around that.
Absolutely. Thank you for reaching out, Ms. Wilson. So a couple of thoughts on startups. They happen all the time. There's an ecosystem for them. It's not as easy to find as the 692 billion that is the normal contracting spend, but that infrastructure is there. The small business innovative research contracts or small business tech transfer programs. There are two programs that are just truly designed for high-tech solutions. There's a third that they're called CSOPs. They are CSOP, capital C, the alphabet C is in cat. And they are designed for commercial adoption. So commercial items that are happening, goods and services that are being offered in the commercial realm. These adoption programs called CSOPs, they're adoption programs, DoD runs one, Homeland Security runs one. So you can be on the lookout for these CSOP opportunities. I know the VA has something called the Pathfinders, the Pathfinders program. So depending if it's medical, if folks are in the medical space, they have the Pathfinders program is their entree into new and innovative things. So lots of strategies. Ms. Wilson, I'd welcome you just to connect directly and let's talk about it. Let's see if there's an opportunity.
William, could you also talk a little bit in terms of Rachel's question about, subcontracting opportunities? Because the reality is it's probably going to be, other than the items you mentioned, it's going to be difficult for a startup to get a contract directly from the federal, state, or local government. But there are all types of subcontracting opportunities. Could you just talk a little bit about how they find those and pursue them?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, great question, Peter.
So it takes a little bit of homework, but think about what are the breadcrumbs to the government agency that would be that has the potential of using your services, okay, or using your products. It's like, okay, if I have a company that does X, if I had to draw a dotted line to the agencies that would be using X, that could use X in their mission, in the execution of their mission, then start there finding the agencies that use the mission. And then you can go into USA Spending and you can see who are the companies today that have contracts with those agencies, and start a reach out campaign to those companies. They already have the contracts. So bringing in a new startup or emerging business with some innovative technology. Again, they already have the contracts and they have the connection. The thing that takes the most time and energy to build, those individuals that are already have a contracts awarded, they've already done that piece. What they don't have is the innovative new idea. Okay, so that collaboration, that's absolutely a collaboration model that could be helpful, is reverse engineering that experience. It's like starting with the agency. It's like, ooh, the Veterans Administration could absolutely use this thing that we've created, or this company that we've created. So instead of going and knocking on the front door of the Veterans Administration, go knock on the front door of the folks that are already serving the Veterans Administration. It's a much easier, to Peter's point, it's a much easier contracting journey without having to wait for these unique doors to open, the CSOPs, the SBIRs, the STTRs, pathways, instead of having to wait, because they're sequenced, they happen once a year, they have an open season, those types of things. But for the companies that are doing work with the government, it's always open season for them, especially when you're bringing some opportunity that they can package, wrap, involve, insert into what they're doing already.
Thank you. That's really helpful. I mean, all of our companies are diverse, Black-owned, Black-led businesses. So hopefully there's some set aside requirements for those companies as well. But I did reach out to you on LinkedIn, and hopefully we can set something up.
Absolutely. Let's talk about it.
So William, could you repeat that resource again? USA Spending, is it a government publication?
Yes, usaspending.gov is the federal, is where the federal record keeping in terms of spending actually occurs. Okay, so you can go on usaspending.gov and you can search by agency, you can search by geographical region. The screenshots that I did early and the numbers that I captured for the New England states, I got all of that information from USA Spending. So you can go and hunt down, and you can do a little intelligence gathering, and you can find out who are the top 25 companies that are doing business with Department of Commerce. Who are the top 25 agencies that are doing, top 25 companies that are doing business with the Department of Education. And especially if you're doing, if you think about it like this way, if you're doing ed tech, you need to know who's spending money with who's doing work with the Department of Education. If you're doing fintech, you want to make sure that SEC, FDIC, Consumer Finance Protection, you should know, those folks should know who you are, and you should know who they are to see if there are any connections, because I think that's a strategy that is much easier than the waiting for the open door to open. And it opens just for a short amount of time, and everybody's trying to rush through, and then they shut it really quickly. So play the subcontracting game, which is where the odds are in your favor. Let me say it that way. The odds are more in your favor there. There's no guarantees, but the odds are absolutely in your favor in that model because the folks have the contracts already and they're just looking for new ideas.
Joanne, there are other questions in the chat.
There are two questions in Q&A. Would you like me to read them or would you like to read them? All right, the first is from Calbert Gordon. Hi, I own a transportation and logistics company. Are there opportunities for subcontract work? If so, where do I start?
Yes. So the answer is yes, subcontracting and logistics work, lots of it, lots of it. Where you start is similar to the conversation I was having with Ms. Wilson. Let's go find the places that are winning the work today. You can look in the transportation and logistics NAICS codes. You can do a search on USA spending by NAICS code. You can see, put your transportation NAICS code in, and you'll see where the work is happening at. It would not surprise me that a lot of it is happening around military bases in the DoD infrastructure. Lots of transportation and logistics stuff, moving stuff around, okay? Military Sea Lift Command, okay? Transcom, a lot of those organizations that do that type of work, even moving service members around. You know, someone has the contract when a family is moving from Connecticut to Florida, they go to the base and say, okay, we're ready to do our household move. Someone picks that stuff up, packages it up, gets it down there, moves it and unloads it. So it's tons of transportation and logistics services. So where you start is simply by looking at who has the demand. I'm a big believer in starting with the demand first, because the pie is so big, the 692 billion is so big, it's overwhelming if you looked at it in that context. Let's flip it around. It's like, who's buying it? Who are the customers? Go find the customers first. And the thing about the federal government is the federal government you don't have to do demand creation in the federal government. You don't have to stand out on the side of the road with a flippy sign and say, come buy my stuff, come buy my stuff, come buy my stuff. It doesn't work that way. If the government spent, $50 million on transportation last year, guess what? They're probably going to spend close to $50 million again this year. That demand happens year over year over year over year. So you don't have to create it, you just have to capture it. And the first step in capturing it is finding it. So you got to know who's buying, what you sell, and how you sell it. And once you start there, then you can start reverse engineering the opportunities you need to result in contracts. Hope that helps.
So before we move on, Kadani, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself to everyone? And as Kadani comes on, Kadani is a procurement and business development specialist that is the point person for this federal procurement grant we received from the MBDA. So he has experience in going after government contracts, and in addition to William, if you have any other questions you want to tackle in terms of if you need help with a capability statement, if you need help in navigating this whole space at the federal, state, or local level, reach out to Kadani or William. Hit me if you can't get them, and I'll make sure that I get forward your email to them. But Kadani, if you could just sort of introduce yourself and put your email address in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, good morning, everyone. Kadani Fresge. I have over 13 years of procurement and technology specialist. I've been working primarily in tech, in the government space, but I'm familiar with the landscape and the lay of the land, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be part of the center and helping you guys as you endeavor on your journey to become entrepreneurs and make your dreams come true. So anything I can do to help you, I'm happy to do so. Like Peter said, like William said, anything we can do, if you have any questions, concerns, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to do anything within my power to, like I said, get you where you're trying to go.
And one thing, let me just say, whether if you reach out to William as a result of this meeting, we can pay for a limited amount of his time on our nickel. anything that Kadani does is also funded by the MBDA. So please take advantage of it. This is one of the few times where the government is actually doing something at no cost. So it's not like the IRS. So feel free to reach out.
Peter, I see another question in the chat I will try to answer really quick. It says, what is your
Okay.
guidance for individuals with zero past performance? So two things. One, if you have zero past performance as a company, maybe the individuals that you employ or the individual members of the company have individual past performance. That counts. Okay, that counts. It's got to be framed a certain way. You can articulate it a certain way, but just because, you know, let's say I'm a lawyer, and if I was a lawyer before I started a company that does counsel support, law support, that doesn't mean all my experience as an individual lawyer just goes out of the window because I've created a company now that does law support. My experience, my knowledge and experience as an individual counts. And then the second strategy is to do the work to combine, connect with as many participants as possible. So partner and team your way to past performance. Okay, if that's the thing that's missing, go find a team member that can bring some past performance to the party. Go find an individual if you need to hire an individual or 1099 an individual, but you get to bring that person's experience to the opportunity. Go do that, whatever is necessary. I was just doing that this weekend. I was doing a Google search trying to find someone because we've got an opportunity and we needed something very unique. Okay, so I don't have it. That's not going to stop me from putting a team together to go get it. We just go find the person that has that subject matter expertise. We start building a relationship with that individual, build it with a couple of them and see if one passes the test, you know, that crosses the finish line. But that's not a reason not to participate. Okay, because there's past performance. Get all the past performance you have and all the past performance you can borrow.
So I think we're at time. William, thank you for another excellent and informative presentation. And I also want to thank each and every one of you who attended. Just as a reminder, this session was recorded. So if you missed part of it, or if you want to share this information with your colleagues, you know, Joanne, how do we, you know, point them to the right location to find this recording when it's available?
This will be up on our YouTube page later this afternoon, and the presentation from William will also be shared with attendees.
So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending, and William, thank you again for what has been an incredible series. We look forward to seeing folks take this information and make some money. So have a good day. Stay safe.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.